the way I look at life is I'm a subject matter enthusiast. I've been really good at the things that I do because I approach it as a consumer or viewer. This is what I want, and this is where I see the industry going. And for me, I've seen the writing on the wall with social, with mobile, where I see it again in blockchain. And there's an opportunity here. And unfortunately, there's all these people looking to extract value early days and not necessarily provide value to move the ball. And I'll tell you what I mean by that is, like, early days mobile, there were a lot of people who made millions of dollars on the flashlight app. And I don't care about that. I get it. Get your bag, secure it, have fun, do your thing. The App Store, like, Apple's going to replace that. It's going to be native, right, to iOS. I'm looking 5-10 years out, like inventory control management via mobile device, which is what we were talking about earlier with Best Buy. Most people, now hindsight's 2020, you have the benefit of that. You can say, hey, look, I can go to Best Buy and check the inventory before I get there. 15 years ago, you couldn't. And most people weren't thinking about that then. I was. I just didn't have the money to patent that process or start building it for people. And so I see this opportunity in blockchain and the sins of Web 2. And, unfortunately, I'm trying to break this down for my viewers who might be listening in on this, the early days of Web 2, unfortunately, there wasn't a payment mechanism built into the HTTP protocol. Had there been, we might not have taken traditional media advertising like overlays, native, and everything else and applied it to Web 2 like YouTube and everything else. The unfortunate byproduct of that is, we're all about a quantity. We want sheer volume of impressions because that's what gets you ads. That's what gets you results. So you have to tap on the nerve. You got to fight or flight response. You got to be controversial. You got to be angry. You got to elicit an emotional reaction from people. But I think people really just want value. They don't want to be wrecked emotionally and everything. So there's a lot of problems that can be solved, I think, in Web3, where through incentive mechanisms, monetization mechanisms, if we get it right and in a permissionless way or decentralized, I know these are a lot of buzzwords, but they mean a lot. And the implications are vast. Because if you look at the gatekeepers, the Apples, the YouTubes, like their hardware to their software, like YouTube as an example, with the content that I would do on my YouTube channel, Full Mag, everything's legal. You will not find anyone more buttoned up than me. I have just about every federal license and clearance that you can think of. I have permits, I have insurance, I have instructor ratings, range safety officer, all these different things. And yet still my videos will get demonetized or pulled. And it's really, really frustrating for me because what I'm doing is 100% legal. It's just by doing so, well, you don't have the right to 100% distribution or reach. Like, you can still publish it. Well, that's screwed up because I just spent 15 years of my life. And not only that, YouTube invested in my channel. I was part of YouTube's Next Up, where they spent, I think it was $40,000 or $70,000 investing in 25 channels. It's like, oh, okay, now you guys changed the rules of the game, but I'm doing everything legally. It's just you're changing a social narrative, or you're changing the distribution, which is impacting a social narrative. And it's arguably going to make those kids grow up in a world where firearms may be taboo. And it's like, well, I disagree with that. I think unless it's illegal, all that stuff should be fair game. Like, people should have a hard conversation about hard topics. You shouldn't try to control that for people. So I'm building a lot of products right now. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, well, we'll do the guns YouTube, or we'll do this YouTube. It's like, you're not going to compete with the second largest search engine. You're not going to beat them at their game. There has to be a fundamental shift in something like a base layer that's built that people can build on top of, and then they can have their own discovery. And again, I go back to the incentive mechanisms and the monetization mechanisms. Those are the key components. But short term, I'm working on some security products because I think that that's really important. A lot of people are getting scammed. A lot of people are getting phished.
How bad do you think that problem is?
I would say it is 99% of all attack stems from some form of phishing. Yeah, because most people, they say, oh, I got hacked. It's like, no, dude, you clicked on a link here or did this. Like, there are a few instances where higher level organizations may have the ability to access devices remotely, pion attacks and stuff like that. But realistically speaking, the bulk majority of consumers are getting phished.
Yeah.
Now, there may be some people that are getting spear phished, where they're being specifically targeted, but that's it. So like I'm trying to figure out ways to mitigate that and reduce that risk.